we'll finally make a Patreon, and then our Patreon book content will be way more popular than our movie content, and then
So that's the one we paywall. Got
and
it.
that's when we just become a political commentary podcast.
You can do that. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Pointless Discourse. My name is Hoppocalypse, and the ad is Itisdpayne. I'm tired.
This is Itisdpayne. Who am I? Uh-oh. Our fact sheet isn't loading.
Oh, it's not?
No. The site cannot be reached. The DNS address cannot be found.
Oh no, our continuity.
We actually did good this time. I don't want to copy and paste a ghost story.
Oh yeah, mine is... Valley Magazine, I guess, is down for the count right now.
Well, that's the first that's ever happened. Hey, but you know what's also a ghost of itself? This movie. Casey Affleck.
Is he related to Ben Affleck? Because I didn't think they looked alike.
I think they're brothers.
Okay, I didn't think they looked alike, but I was like, the last name isn't like common enough for it to be
Let's
a
see.
coincidence.
Let's go to this IMDb. Yes, they're brothers. I'll say with that picture, he in this movie he doesn't really.
Is it the facial hair that like hides some of his features?
Yeah. I think Affleck's also got a wider head.
They're both Affleck.
Yeah.
That doesn't help. You said Affleck has a wider head. There's two of them.
Ben. Batman. Batfleck.
That Ben.
Yeah, I think he's just built a little bit bigger, and so
taller and wider.
Yeah. But
yeah, if anyone hasn't gotten a hint, for our 24 movies for A24, we usually have 24 facts, and I'm
gonna keep refreshing until it comes back.
Hopefully the website that we were getting facts from isn't gone forever because they were sequential.
Yeah, I'll just look up random trivia about A24. That was still saved.
Okay, so hopefully
and then,
next time we meet, you can reread, what fact should it be? Number
5. It'll be the 5th fact. We got to remember that because that's a guest episode for the next one.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Yeah. Spoilers. This one has 20. Do you want to roll a d20 and I'll read that fact?
I did pull out my d20 because as I was doing the intro, that's why I messed up the intro, because I realized that I have my dice out. I rolled a 20.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't have to go far. I think we already read this one off the other one, but hey, according to Cracked, the studio was founded in 2012 by Daniel Kratz, David Fenkel, and John Hodges. The three of them worked on film productions, left their prior jobs, and started a company promoting movies from a distinctive point of view.
Yeah, we totally had that fact. But that's okay. You guys got double fact. So if you're only jumping in this episode, you can rewatch the first episode to confirm for us if we've already read that fact. Because that sounds like a first fact thing.
Yeah.
Oh, no. Or was the first fact how they named it, and then the second fact is
I don't know. We've because with our recording schedule going out in order, I lost track of where we were.
And that's totally okay, because the audience, you guys can correct us.
Oh my goodness. Hey, if you go to Casey Affleck's IMDb and just scroll to known for, is a ghost story there for you too?
Yes.
I didn't realize this movie made such an impact for people to be known. Yeah, I guess he's also not in a ton of movies either.
He seems to be in a lot, but I don't think these are roles that are like main roles. Yeah.
Wasn't he in The Town? I thought it was. I know it was in Manchester by the Sea, which I really like. Oh, he's in Oppenheimer. Didn't watch that either.
He's in the Ocean's movies.
He's in Interstellar.
I don't see The Town on his full list.
Oh, I was thinking Gone Baby Gone. That's sorry, the reason why I get them mixed up is that the Town and Gone Baby Gone I heard are like they could be sequels to each other. They're not, but Gone Baby Gone's a good movie. If you guys haven't watched it, I remember it being a good movie, but I also haven't watched it since COVID. So
that one's directed by his brother.
Yeah. I don't know.
And so is The Town.
Yes. That's why I knew that. I knew that. I know that it's people have different opinions, but I think Ben Affleck, he has nothing to do with this movie, but I think he is a decent director from the stuff I've seen.
I don't have any opinion.
Yeah. This is when I was being a huge movie buff, and there's certain things that that's why I think he had, because he always wanted to be Batman, and I think he was trying to help Schneider with it, but then I don't know, everyone quotes that line. It's like, was it Polly or one of his first movies that he did that didn't do well, and everyone's like, oh yeah, he showed Affleck, and it's I don't know. Personally, I do think he's a decent director, but that's the neat thing about having an opinion. Everyone has them. They're all wrong. Mine's right because I had the microphone.
I have very little experience watching things by Ben Affleck. I remember one time I was on work travel, and hotel TVs always seem to play like movies, and you never can catch the beginning of a movie. It's always like a part of a movie. I was flipping the channels, and I was like, hey, that's a young Ben Affleck. And then it was a really uncomfortable scene in the one where they go to the moon. So it was like him doing the animal cracker scene with
Apollo 13.
Yeah, he was doing the animal cracker scene. And I was just sitting there going, if a man did this to me, I would hurl and like never talk to him again. And then I watched the bit where he's like singing to her, and like Bruce Willis or whoever is like making fun of him. I was like, yeah, make fun of him. Mm-hmm. So that's just my general opinion of Ben Affleck. Those two scenes that are completely out of context. But I've heard with context aren't better.
Oh yeah, I don't think that movie's. It's the concept of Apollo 13 is idiotic.
I remember the interview with Spielberg, I think it was, where Ben Affleck and somebody else were like, hey, why would you send these people to space? Why wouldn't you just teach astronauts how to drill? And they said, and I quote, Steven Spielberg told us to fuck off.
Yep. I've seen that same interview, and I'm like it makes a movie as a whole, it's an interesting movie, but in the end, it's like, no. If anything, they might just train one or two, not the whole crew, and just be like, you fly it.
That was also the big, like, time period where everyone was really into being pro blue collar, though, wasn't it?
I thought you were going to say everyone was pro oil rig.
That is kind of pro blue collar.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because there's a lot of the movies that are like, oh, I'm just like the regular cop, but I saved the day. The FBI is bad at their job.
Die Hard?
Die Hard and everything that wanted to be Die Hard after that.
Every 90s hit. Mm-hmm. Every Bruce Willis movie.
Essentially. But, no, we're not talking about Ben Affleck today. We're talking about Casey Affleck. And a ghost story.
The whole movie.
I'm trying to think, do we have anything we need to let people know right now? I don't think so.
I guess you already said we're doing the A24 thing.
Yeah, I said go back to episode 1 to double check our facts. I mentioned that we watched a ghost story. I guess then at this point I can say spoilers coming up ahead. If
if you guys are going to watch this on the 14th, which when this comes out is next week.
Yeah, it's apparently showing in AMC theaters, at least in our general area. But I was also going to say, I think there's only 2 things we can spoil in this movie?
If that.
I guess it's one big reveal.
One big end. The ending we can spoil. Anyway, we're getting ahead of ourselves.
Yes. So then we are at the point where we have 20-sided dice because we're nerds, and before we started recording, we talked about D&D and tabletop role-playing games.
And so ruining the life of DMs.
Yeah, so we always have dice with us, so we'll roll our dice. Whoever rolls highest gets to be the one that gives a synopsis of this movie in a couple sentences. Then after that, we have our timer, so then we can talk about anything and everything we want. I don't know if we'll need the timer.
I don't think we're going to need the timer, but I'm going to set it up anyway. Because I know if I don't, we're going to be like, what time is it?
I feel like every time we say we won't need a timer, we do need a timer. But
yes.
I think I'm confident this time. I wonder if the listeners or YouTube viewers can tell how we feel.
They'll know. They can look at the time.
Right.
I have a feeling you're going to be given a synopsis of this.
I
rolled a 5.
Why am I rolling one more than you each week? I rolled a 6.
I think this is the same thing literally as...
No, I think last week it was I rolled 16 and you rolled 15 or something really close like that.
I don't remember. Well, I'm interested. What is the synopsis of this movie?
Ghost.
Excellent. Starting the time.
All right. Okay. So to give it a fair amount of sentences compared to all the other movies we've watched so far, in this movie, we follow a ghost as he deals with the fact that life moves on without him.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like that's what people were Googling for, what's the point of this movie? And that's the point of the movie.
Don't ruin the stuff that we need to pad out the episode with.
All right.
I'll have the questions now. I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 questions.
So we will take up the half-hour discussion then.
Well, it can be afterwards if we don't take up the whole thing. It's discussion questions I found when I was seeing if Google would tell me if a ghost story was playing near me.
Look, this is just like being at book club. So everybody sit down and get comfy while we essentially have our own version of book club.
Like we're only a little bit longer before we just rename this to book club and we just end up talking about our books.
Yeah, one of these days.
One of these days, or we'll finally make a Patreon, and then our Patreon book content will be way more popular than our movie content, and then. So
that's the one we paywall. Got it.
That's when we just become a political commentary podcast.
You can do that.
No, we're finally the full reveal of Pointless Discourse. If they can do it and get paid, so can we.
Are we gonna start having to be one of those podcasts that's full of conspiracy theories and anti-women? Because again, you can do that one by yourself too.
I was good with the first one, but you didn't have to add the second one. I want to be pro-women. They can be anti-women if they want.
Yeah, okay. Not to get into discussions about podcasts that get more attention than they should.
Yes, we're looking at you. I forgot the one, NPR.
Not NPR.
I know. I was just trying to think of a news one, and that was the first one that came to mind. But anyway, I'm starting the timer before people look at this podcast and be like, "Yep, ghosting this." I think one of the scenes, was very telegraphed of what was going to happen when it sat there for 30 minutes. But let's see. I'm pretty sure they padded the runtime with a 5-minute snuggle fest, a 3-minute pie eating thing, and almost a 4-minute dude sitting on a gurney.
Wait, are you telling me the pie eating thing is only 3 minutes long?
I timed it. Yeah, it feels like 10.
I thought it was 10. I thought it was 10 to 15.
I went back. I was like, no, go back. When did this start? It is about like maybe 3.5 minutes.
It could have been half, and I would have gotten the full context.
Yeah.
Same thing with the gurney. Like, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
yeah, what I will say is, for me, this movie feels like one of those movies so that A24 could really shine, because I think this movie does something where it wants to experiment with, like I said, the thing I really like in Moonlight is like the lack of a soundtrack.
Mm-hmm.
But not having soundtrack and not having dialogue at the same time, I realize is not my vibe. Like, I did make the comment in the last week's episode where I was like, it's really cool to have no soundtrack, but I was like, but you do need really strong dialogue to like work alongside with that. And then the
is this glare showing up for you too?
Yeah. I was trying to talk around it while you resolved it.
I'm like, I don't know where it's coming from. Wait a second.
Is there a fuzzy on your camera?
No, it's I found it.
Pause.
Nope, that's not gonna help either. Whatever. I have my it's like Christmas. And every time I shake or move, it moves my monitor. I have to wait for the sun to go away.
Oh, is the glare reflecting into like
it's literally hitting my camera.
Do you have like a piece of paper you can tape on the window?
There we go. This is the character sheet for 5e. I'm not getting up.
I'm trusting the process.
Yeah, so am I.
There we go.
Better than I thought it would. Until the sun moves.
Okay, so then where was I? Oh yeah, so I think where Moonlight does really well with when there isn't a soundtrack and when scenes linger, there's a lot of like impact to them. Whereas this one feels like it's like Baby's first attempt at that style of filming. Mm-hmm. Where this one, I understand what they were going for, but the scenes that lingered didn't make me feel anything, unfortunately. It's also like how when we had K to the J... No, that episode doesn't exist yet. But...
Yeah, it does.
Oh, right. That was our first guest one. So when we had
K to... That came out 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, when we were discussing Hereditary with everybody, I know K to the J said that he liked that you were forced to observe the uncomfortable moments and really sit there like the characters would in the movie. Mm-hmm. And I think this movie also wanted to do that, but it wasn't ready. Like, it needed a little bit more something.
Yeah. So, like, I went and looked. David Lowery. He did The Green Knight. You know what? Okay,
yes.
So...
I also thought of The Green Knight when I was watching this. I was like, it feels like... Because The Green Knight is... Okay, so my comparisons for the two would just be... I think both of these feel like they're off of very short stories. Where there's, like, key points that are really strong. But then, like, to stretch it to be movie length, they have to do a lot of work in between to keep you interested. Green Knight has a lot of cool visual effects and confusing scenes to keep you invested. Ghost Story was very literal about forcing you to sit through the short story. But sometimes that's not enough to keep a viewer interested.
What I literally wrote here is near the end with the pioneers and all that. I'm like, this reminds me of the forest scene in The Green Knight.
Yes.
Where it rapidly goes through time and then you just see a skeleton and then he's back and it's pretty much the same. He's like, I liked that scene so much, let's do it twice.
Yeah, I think the biggest enemy of this movie was its own pacing. It got it in its own way. Mm-hmm. I also think it tried to do too many messages at once.
Yeah.
I would have been fine if it was just about the ghost feeling like he was being left behind, but when it got to the point where they tore the house down and then they like put up the office buildings, I was like, is this a comment on society? And then by the time I was like sitting and trying to figure that out, it was suddenly like, and we're starting all the way over from before he ever existed. And I was like, okay.
Yeah, it's where, as I said in my notes, I'm pretty sure I can see the two things. I'm like, I'm 30 minutes into this movie, and I think less than 50 words were said. And then a little bit later, this dude's speech at the party is probably 50, if not 75% of the script.
I didn't have any moments during that speech where I felt connected to it.
Yeah, I'm just like, yeah, he's still going.
At first, I was like, this man doesn't get invited to parties. And I was like, oh, he's at a party. He gets invited to parties.
It's like, I don't get invited to parties. But yeah.
My favorite scenes were honestly the maybe 2 minutes out of the entire film of the two ghosts talking to each other quietly.
I like how they had subtitles. But this family speaking Spanish.
They don't deserve any. That's so rude.
And there's no subtitles for them. You can kind of tell what they're saying.
The context of the
yeah. But yeah, it was just like, I wrote something down. Yeah. Oh, that's literally what I just said. I like how the ghost gets subtitles, but speaking Spanish doesn't.
No. I think the other problem this movie has is I understand that they wanted the characters to seem complex, but the two main characters to me, main as in the main couple, they felt almost like stereotypes to me. The only side of them that we got to see is that they were an arguing couple.
They didn't argue as much as they did in a movie that is coming out.
That's true. But it's I think it would have been a stronger movie if I had more empathy for the ghost, but I don't, because every time his own I understand he is gonna the trauma is gonna stick with him, his regrets and things like that about how he lived his life. But every single scene where he's not a ghost is him being mean to his wife.
Were they married?
I assumed so because of them being in the house together and everything like that. They could have just been a couple. Yeah, I don't think it's ever established.
I'm just looking to see. It doesn't really say. It's not that.
Yeah, because they were clearly a couple, not just from the 5-minute cuddle fest, but also because they have the one scene where she's like, we're supposed to both make decisions together.
Yeah, at the end.
Mm-hmm.
I think what may have done. Oh wow, I just saw the budget for this movie and how much they made, and it's like, oh yeah, they did very well.
Yeah, it
was a very cheap movie. But
all things considered, yeah.
But yeah, pretty much what I was thinking of is I think if I would tweak this movie, I think the death would happen later. I think establish that relationship in the first third of the movie, just to show it a little bit more. And then I think the weight they wanted us to feel as the ghost is kind of just stuck in this house and him wanting to see the note that's in a wall and everything, I think it would have made that journey feel more.
Yeah, I can see that because
we don't have any reason to trust this relationship until they're like, oh, we probably should show a little bit more at the end, and then it's like
there's only 1 second of him being like, okay, we can move out of the house,
which is what
starts the movie.
Yeah.
Spoil.
We said spoilers.
I know, but that's the one spoiler.
It's the very end. Oh man, I did like how they said whatever, how they showed what caused the sound, and then I don't know, because I didn't have subtitles on when I was first watching it. or well, when I was watching the beginning, and I'm just like, is this just supposed to like not for us not to be able to hear it? But the second time they also said it was so quiet that I went back and turned it up and, and turned on the subtitles to hear what he said, and I'm like, okay, sound, everything, that this makes sense in the context of what's happening. Stupid espresso depresso ghost.
Yeah, I agree that like having the establishment of the relationship would have helped, because yeah, there's no, from the ghost's perspective, we have no investment on like caring what happens to the ghost. Like we're supposed to just blindly go, oh, I feel bad for the ghost, but without any like hints as to what the ghost was like, other than he wrote a song. It's hard to like really want to follow through and like care about his ending.
Yeah, or if it was him trying to stay connected to her, and it's the haunting, like it's the other side of the haunting, where he's not willing to give up, and the movie ends with whatever her face leaving, but it's just her trying to move on with her life, which we find out throughout the movie and kind of a not the greatest way, that she never wanted to be there, which is hinted at the beginning.
Because she's like Googling apartments and trying to move stuff with him not willing to help.
Yeah.
But like there's also, I'm sure like an artsy fartsy person would be like, well, of course he wants to stay there because he is the ghost and it's cyclical and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah. Now, there are some things that I did like about this, and it's mainly just, it's not the script, it's anything, it's just some of the shots. I think one of the things I enjoyed a lot was him walking through the house, especially when the single mom and her 2 kids are in there, and how we spend a whole year of them living in that house every time he walks into a different room, and it's like a different holiday. I thought that was a really neat thing to show, like, life is here and he's just very confused, and I do think happening.
Conceptually that was a really good thing to do as well, because it also, in a way that it's like shown to us, I mean, with the context of A Ghost Lives Forever, a year for us feels like forever because we have a limited amount of years, whereas him as a ghost, a year happens so quickly, because in the scope of things, what is a year?
Yeah. Like
everything feel like it's kind of like how they have the whole commentary on vampires where they're like 50 years, that's like 5 minutes, like realistically to me it's a drop in the bucket when it comes to the amount of time.
Well, you also know what vampires also say. I drank a dude's blood who was on drugs. I'm a wizard now.
Yeah, I gotta do some catch up on that show.
I haven't made it past season 3.
Hey, it's more than usual for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, but no, I kind of think I would have liked it more if we kind of had more of a focus on the interaction between him and the neighbor ghost, because one of the lines that my favorite line, which is, again, there's no dialogue, but my favorite subtitle in the whole movie is when the other ghost says that they don't remember who they're waiting for anymore. And like I thought that was like really powerful. And then a little bit after that we get the monologue from the guy, and I was just like, oh, this kind of just like ruined my vibe.
Yeah, it would have been interesting if like I don't, because I guess it could have been 2 different ways where it's just like
it's really relationship focused and ghost focused,
or if it's focused on them like I think the scene where I'm like, I wasn't expecting to be emotional about a floating bed sheet when the house gets destroyed, and he's like, I guess they're not coming back, and it just drops, and
yeah, that's such a good scene.
I'm like, oh, I wasn't expecting to feel things about this movie.
But like it's weird because it's the character that we have the least amount of build up for, but I cared more about that ghost, because like when it got to the end of the actual movie I was kind of like, yeah. Would I have liked to have seen that? No, I don't think so, because I think no matter what he read, I would have been disappointed that was his like final say so that he's allowed to move on.
Yeah. And I don't know. I think it would have been interesting because it's not clear on how long Neighbor Ghost has been there.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. I think it would have been interesting, like, even if it's just all done. I thought it was, like, the best part of the movie, like, of them just making hand gestures of just, like, hi, hi, like, just subtitles. And
Mm-hmm.
if, if it was, Casey, the Affleck ghost, asking what the heck was going on, and the other ghost, like, answering in vague, like, I don't know, but I am here waiting kind of thing. And it's like, not that we learn more about that character, but it's just showing how these two entities are confused at the state that they're in and just watching
Yeah.
life.
I
But
think I think for me, I would have felt more sad for the end of the movie if, rather than showing us the cyclicalness and him eventually moving on, if it turned into like the confused ramblings where like because he's re-witnessing, like he's basically, because he's gone back in time by means of ghost suicide, he relives out all the moments leading up to what leads to him originally existing. Sure, we'll put it that way. It's because
yeah,
once it becomes a circle, it gets hard to like discern things. I wish that rather than him being able to move on at a certain point, it turned into more of like him not understanding why he's rewatching this. And that would have made me more sad, because that would mean that, he's forever stuck there, because he's like the other ghost where he's like, I've lost track of time. I don't know what's going on. I
yeah.
just am.
It would have been interesting if there, like, a scene of when he's like, because at the end when he's scratching at the thing and he finally gets the note out, like, as he's watching himself look out the window, it would have been interesting if there was like more versions of him watching different things while he's just scratching. It shows that he's done this like
So many
multiple
times.
times and now he's finally able to get the note out.
Oh, this ghost was the one that broke the cycle, kind of thing.
Yeah. But
Yeah, I know it wasn't supposed to be funny, but I laughed a lot when he started to throw a tantrum because she kissed another
yeah.
guy.
Yes.
It's supposed to be emotional, but I was like, is he 5?
Well, in
'Cause,
his
like,
mind they're still together. He
I mean,
like,
is it clear though that as a ghost that he knows he's a ghost? Because he's very aware that he can't interact with things like he used to be able to.
yeah, it's not very clear, and it's just
Because the most he's
well,
able to do when she's still in the house is get her to listen to the music again, right? Like,
yeah, it's the other thing, like just how we saw the year pass with the Spanish speaking family. It shows time. That was another cool scene of when he watches her leave
her
like
day to
4
day.
times, because it's once again like the passage of time is still moving, but for him
He's static.
yeah, it's there's no concept of time, and so for her it could have been a year or months, and she's like trying to get her life back in order and move past this tragedy. But for her, could have been anywhere from months to a year or 2 years. I would imagine is just how we watched it, was the course of 30 seconds, which cracks me up a little bit, of how we have like 15 minutes of nothing happening in multiple scenes when he's alive, and then when he's a ghost it's like we pass months in 30 seconds. I also like when he had the temper tantrum with the Spanish family there, as he's just like, I want you here, and everything was thrown at the wall that has the note.
I know. They're touching his precious piano.
Yeah, well, but I thought that was an interesting thing, where it's like it shows him lifting the glass of milk, and then I think the camera goes behind a chair, and it just shows the glass of milk floating
Hovering,
there.
yeah.
And it's like, that was a neat transition, and Yeah,
That
she
poor
didn't.
family, though. They
I
didn't
know.
deserve that. What did they do? They existed.
They were too happy.
I know. But the poor kid, when the closet opens and his
Yeah.
sister runs and he's got his little laser gun, he's like, I got him. I'm protecting us. And I was like, what a good brother.
Yeah. Which, like, I'm like, does the kid see him? Because, like, that's also not clear. Because there's a point, it feels like when he pushes the closet open, the kid is looking right at him. But then when he has the temper tantrum, throws all the dishes.
They're just like, they don't know where to look. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like I was expecting the kid to look at him when he was just kind of slowly walking forward, but I don't know. And then you had some guy giving a speech that I was like, okay, cool, bro.
Yeah, like the only thing I got away from it is him talking about how people want a legacy to outlive them, and then he mentions songs, and then the guy was a musician.
Yeah, I thought like with that, what was gonna happen was when he went into the office building, he was gonna hear his song play.
See, that would be cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, I think those are all my thoughts. I think it's a movie that could have been 30 minutes, and if it was a 30-minute movie, would have been breathtaking.
Mm-hmm.
But it took a really long time for the pieces to fall together, and I unfortunately was also a little bit tired when I watched it, so I was like, I don't know if it's slow-paced or I'm tired. And then I would look at how much time was left. I was like, oh no, it's slow-paced.
Yeah, because there's so many scenes that feel like an hour that are actually 2 minutes. I'm just looking through my notes, seeing if there's anything, but I feel like... Oh, here, you'll like this. Because this was after... Okay, so for context of when I wrote this note, the 5 minute... And there's like a 5 minute on-screen snuggle fest. And then we see the car accident, or after the car accident, it's like, this is what snuggling will get you. And
I was confused. I was like, they're snuggling. Oh, they're kissing a lot. Am I gonna have to like see them do the deed so early on in the movie?
And from this camera view, I'm like, okay. But then
I did feel like I was interrupting something, and I was like, oh, I should shut the door. I said,
the doors don't shut. But what I wrote here is the quietness combined with the shots that seem to take too long is a combo that seems to be working pretty well for me right now. I'm sure I'm going to regret this later. Because at that point, it was only one scene. and then it kept showing up.
Yeah, I think it would have been more powerful if they were a bit more choice on which scenes were the long, quiet scenes.
Yeah.
Like, I understand why the pie scene was in the movie. But it
could have been cut in half.
Yeah, I think in half, because I don't know. Like, there's a lot that's implied with like the last bit of her eating the pie that we didn't need her picking it up and slowly walking over and slowly sitting down and then slowly picking at it. Like, I don't know. It's not to say that like that's not how people grieve, but as a viewer, it's kind of like the whole joke we make, like in Star Wars, just because they don't use the bathroom doesn't mean they don't pee.
No. That's the Force.
Oh, it takes away all the pee and poop.
Yeah. It's a clean society. The Force in other translations is known as the bidet.
So if they had shown us her sitting on the floor with the pie, I would have gotten the context that she picked up the pie and has been eating the pie until she made herself sick.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, the other parts of the movie expect you to be able to fill in context, like you said, with the year going by very quickly and the seasons changing and the holidays changing. But then other scenes were just like, I understand.
It really feels like the beginning of this movie, they're like, add an extra minute or two. Because we need to pad the runtime. Because, to
hit the 90-minute mark.
Yeah, so that way we can put it into Sundance. But like, I am curious of, there's a couple things that I would like to know. I would love to see the blooper reel for this movie. Like how, because there's times where it feels like, I know he isn't, but it feels like they green screened him onto the thing, which would.
There were a couple like walking in front of the house, and I was like,
Yeah.
why would you green screen him? Because they have the physical house. I know they
Yeah.
do, because they interact with the house.
Mm-hmm. They destroy the house.
Yeah.
That's where the man. It must be great to have 2 houses that fit in a $100,000 budget. But yeah, it's while looking at it and everything, it's just my brain lost track. Padding the runtime, all this other stuff. I don't know. I forgot where I was going with it. But yeah, I think it would be funny to see some of the bloopers and stuff. Like something else I thought was gonna happen is when he died and he's sitting in front of that dude in the wheelchair. I thought the dude in the wheelchair was gonna say something to him, since it seemed like he was just hopping a skip away from death himself.
Oh, yeah. When everything opens up and he leaves the hospital.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's his 7th movie, and it's 4th one that he wrote. Oh no, he wrote all of them, or at least was a writer on all these. Was he the only writer on this film? Written by him. I don't know. So. But yeah, we can move forward.
Yeah, do you have questions you want to ask, or do you
Sure,
think
I can ask the Google question, mainly because I think it would be fun. And we don't have to spend a lot of time on there. This is fun. Every time I click one of these questions, it adds more. The first one is, what was the point of the movie A Ghost Story? To make money. Moving on.
I mean, I kind of say it where, in my opinion, the point of it is, life moves on after death, and feelings are hard. Don't hold on to resentment.
Yeah.
Capitalism sucks.
Oh no, the answer that they copied and pasted from this article isn't very interesting. I'm just having more fun that every time I open up one of these tabs, it keeps giving me more things people ask. Like, for example, is the movie A Ghost Story sad? I think parts of it are sad, but I think
it could be sadder.
I think if they full blasted into Sad Town, it would be a more memorable movie.
I also think in some ways it didn't lean into the sad enough. Like, they assumed that we could suspend our disbelief enough without giving me a reason to suspend it, to make me really feel things.
Oh, now I'm getting into different movies. So what happens in A Ghost Story 2:22? And I'm like,
Who?
hold on, there's a second one? And no, it's something completely different. And then other people are like, what did the paper say? It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter what the paper says. But yeah, I didn't think this was going to be one that we super jumped into a ton of things.
I think I liked the premise, and I think that's why I was so let down by it.
Yeah. Hold on, I'm trying to figure out why. I recognize the name Rooney Mara, but I'm trying to find out what movie she's in.
That you recognize?
Oh, A Ghost Story.
There you go.
She's in Kubo, The Two Strings. I own it. I haven't watched it. Pan, I think I watched that movie. She's Tiger. Oh, yeah, I did watch this. That was a dumb movie. She was Tiger Lily in this.
Oh, for some reason I thought she was in a lot more recent movies. Oh, she's in 5 upcoming movies. Okay. I don't know where I specifically remember her from, because looking through these lists of movies, these are not movies I've like seen. I wonder if it's just one of those names that like stuck in my head as like, that's a unique enough name. I'll remember that actress. Oh, maybe from Her, because I did watch Her.
Yeah, I haven't watched Her, but I saw that she's in it. But, yeah. So, you said you had a number rating?
Oh, yes. We don't really number rate our movies, but a friend did ask me what I would give it. And out of 10, I said, oh, sorry. I'm okay.
Mm-hmm.
Out of 10,
that was
I
her
said, I would say like a 5.5 or a 6 out of 10.
Which is kind of, I was thinking that. It's like, it's
like just above average.
It's it's more of a movie than some of the ones we watched from, for Christmas.
Yes, but watching it compared to other A24 films, it's very forgettable.
I have a feeling this is going to be our lowest one on the list as I'm looking through the other ones that we're watching.
Then, yeah. I feel like the next movie in the next episode is very hit or miss with people.
Yes.
I feel like it's really polarizing.
That's what I heard as well.
But I like weird. So I'm all for a metaphor that makes no sense but makes me think.
Well, what's going to be funny is just knowing our recording schedule. Like, we're going to watch this, and then I'm pretty sure the movie we're watching is going to be, like, all the feels. Playing.
Yeah, there's
weeks. Which, due to recording schedule, we got to record that Wednesday.
Because so many of the movies on this list have a very focused and deep, like, message that they're trying to, like, come across with film. Mm-hmm. And A Ghost Story, I think, is almost like, I think the best way I could describe it, in my opinion, is A Ghost Story takes something that everybody already is aware of and then doesn't do anything with it.
Yeah.
It doesn't give me a new perspective. It doesn't give me, like, a new way to feel about things. Whereas Minari is a very interesting look at the American dream. Mm-hmm. The Whale is a look at what isolation does to people and how hard it can be to actually find true connections with people when you're stuck in a shitty situation. Mm-hmm. Hereditary is generational trauma. Like, Moonlight is also in some ways... No, Moonlight's like systematic oppression and how the world's against you. And then we have A Ghost Story. Like, it's...
And this one right here is what it feels like to be small.
That one's just a very found family. Like,
that
it
one
is the trope.
Was fun to make the person watch it.
I didn't know.
Neither did I.
I would have never suspected.
I'm glad it happened how it did. But anyway, when I was watching this, I'm like, you know what? With just how, I'm going to butcher this word because I can see it in my head, but I already know the disconnect on how to pronounce it to my mouth is breaking up. But like the existential kind of, oh, I did say it right. But anyway, just what they were going for, I'm like, if you enjoy Donnie Darko, you might enjoy the concepts of this movie. But if you're hoping
to very broad strokes,
if you are hoping to get a Donnie Darko out of this film, you are not.
I think the other thing about this movie that I wish it did more for me is I think I really read and watch a lot of media that looks into grief in a way that's like, in ways that like are hard to explain sometimes. Mm-hmm. So this one almost feels like it like rushes through the grief that could have really hooked me in as a viewer, and then it didn't consider showing me more of the side of grief from the ghost's perspective. Yeah. Like, he does have a temper tantrum, but I don't feel like he as a ghost has the same moment to like mourn that his wife has left him behind, mm-hmm. or his partner or whatever they were, because like I know looking back at some of my favorite books, a lot of them deal with the human condition when faced with something as heavy as grief.
Yeah.
And then this movie had the opportunities to really do something with it, and instead was kind of like, but what if ghosts cycle?
Yeah.
Which is like not bad in concept, but could have really pushed more.
Now this would have been a different movie and anything like that, but it was just like if they wanted stuff to happen from a ghost, like the ghost story and all that stuff, as like telling most of the story when he was dead, what they could have done is as he moves between the rooms, he sees the past, and that's how we learn about their past relationship.
Yeah, it was really disappointing that it went all gas in like the last 10 minutes when I was waiting for that to be sprinkled throughout the film. I also would have enjoyed seeing more of a progression in his ability to affect the world around him. Because it does feel like he snaps one day and then suddenly is able to control all the things in the house.
Yeah. The power creep is like a Japanese boys anime.
He got isekai to the ghost world.
And he became Goku when a minority got into his house.
Oh my goodness.
How dare you?
I tried not
to the political podcast now.
I tried not to think of the implication that he chased out people of color from his home. Mm-hmm. It doesn't. Okay, so you bringing that up doesn't help the beginning, because in the beginning they want, or not the beginning. It doesn't help when he goes really far back in time, because it's really sympathetic to people stealing land.
Yeah.
I'm not going to discuss that now because.
But anyway, I
have no research on the director himself to know.
Yep, and I know he made Peach Dragon. That was the movie he made before this, which was a remake of a movie from the 80s that I remember watching. But yeah, I do think that it's like, I think the concept of this movie is a good concept. I just think, like what we've said in multiple ways, that this just focusing on different things would have been interesting, because it's, if you wanted to keep all the things like the college party and the Spanish family coming in, and what would have been interesting is, okay, Act 1, we learn who this character is, and we hear the struggle, and just rather than like, hey, how you doing? It's no, you leave it goes into why he doesn't want to leave the house, or even do the same thing where he's just like very wishy-washy, and then his death, and then he comes back, and then the second act is him like maybe more interactions with the best character in this whole movie, the neighbor ghost, which I don't know, part of me wonders with just how sporadic that character is in there. It is its strength, and we don't know a lot, but him just, he's just saying like interacting with the house, learning how it is, and then just seeing wife, girlfriend, whoever she is, and just her moving on while he's still in the same spot, and then I don't know, I think the confusion of her leaving and then multiple people coming in, just cut out the whole thing when he just goes back in time, and it's just like, okay.
I think in one hand, the movie, like, I don't know if the movie was being too safe, but I think it could have just been weirder.
Yeah.
Because the premise is already weird. Just lean into it and like give us everything that's like going on in that brain in there. Because like you said, like conceptually we both like it, but it just sits there.
It fails to launch.
Yeah, we're like, all right, come on. What do you have to tell me? Ghost. Yes, I've met the ghost. What's the ghost doing?
Look, we obviously didn't watch it in the best format. We obviously need to go on Valentine's Day and watch the movie.
You can do that by yourself, and I'll spend Valentine's Day enjoying an hour and a half of my time.
You and Schrader can go watch it again if you watched it the first time.
I didn't make him watch it, and that's okay. I don't have to.
I will. What's his number? No. Strider.
You're going to take him on a date?
Strider, you want to go watch a movie on Valentine's Day?
Yeah, I don't have anything else to say. I guess, do you want to introduce what we'll be doing next episode?
Nah.
Tune in next week to find out.
No. Next week we are watching The Lobster. It's our Valentine. Yeah, it comes out a couple days before Valentine's Day.
Did you know Ghost Story was about a couple when you said it to be this day? Because I know you set these movies up kind of like on purpose.
I chose an order for this. Pretty much all the guest episodes are chosen specifically for either a holiday or a date that they're close to, except for once we kind of get into May and June.
No, May you have... Because wait, which one is the quote unquote Mother's Day episode? I thought that was could have been Hereditary.
Oh yeah, it could have.
That would have been a funny
it would have
Mother's Day
been
episode.
But when is Mother's Day?
It's like mid-May. Talk to Me is kind of good for Mother's Day. I have already watched that one.
But yeah, so yeah, and then like after I put in all the guest episodes, I kind of just read the synopsis and forgot them all. But I remember that the ghost story said it was like a couple and something about a ghost it was something about, there was some talk about love or romance in the one description I read. So I'm like, let's do that here. And then Past Lives, which, whatever. We're watching that one in 2 weeks. Okay? There you guys go. Because next week we're watching The Lobster with new guests.
And The Lobster is perfect for Valentine's Day because it's a movie about...
lobsters.
About people that... Sorry. It's just... I think that's the thing. Like, I said this movie, like, a ghost story could be more weird. The Lobster is really weird. But essentially, they're just getting... It's like Tinder, but in a hotel with consequences.
Lobster.
I feel like...
I don't know anything about the movie.
I love descriptions that are technically wrong, but also technically right.
Yeah, I remember when I read it, there was, like... Because a lot of the movies on here I didn't see, and so I purposely tried to not spoil myself. And then The Lobster, I made sure, like, yeah, not to spoil myself. But then there's like, I remember something on TikTok came up, and I was starting to watch a little bit, and then I looked over in the corner, and it was like The Lobster. I'm like, scroll past. I'm not watching this.
I need full context.
Yeah, bring me back to the stupid clips of Chinese dramas that keep showing up on my TikTok for some reason. It's the same story, but it was way more of a story in 5 minutes than the ghost story was.
Harsh. Anyway.
Poops. Yeah, so we will find out who the new mystery guests are next week.
You will. We know.
Yes. That would be buck wild. Like, we don't
roll
know.
a dice. Hope you're available.
Yeah. It's just a wheel, and we just kind of pull them out of, like, cryo. Defrost them. You can live your life now after you record this podcast episode.
Heads in jars. Just like Walt Disney.
And Futurama.
All of Futurama.
Yep. But anyway, that's it. We'll talk to you guys next time. Bye-bye.